What a day of news. Apologies if it's quite windy as I'm going through all this. Hopefully it won't interrupt the audio. But anyway, Arsenal are picking things up in the transfer market. Of course, yesterday the Cristhian started and ended pretty much with Arsenal making €11 million bid, about £9 million for Cristhian. He's arrived. Now Arsenal want Christian Mosquera. Two Christians arriving at the club. Well, it's looking like Mosquera's going to. Got to give huge credit to Hand of Arsenal, who was the first to break the news that Arsenal had made Mosquera a top target. They wanted him. I will say I covered on the Goonerverse too, and maybe a month back, that there were some links to Christian Mosquera. But Hand of Arsenal breaking the news that there's really something in this, and that Arsenal are making moves to try and make this happen. And then he was actually tagged by Fabrizio Romano and David Ornstein when they came in with updates about the 20-year-old centre-back from Valencia, Spain under-21 international, that Arsenal looking to sign. Now, what I will say, do you know what, this bag's heavy, let me just take it off, there we go. So a couple of things. If you're expecting a breakdown of Mosquera, I ain't got one for you. I wouldn't know what to possibly say, because I haven't watched a minute of him play football. What do I know? He's 6'3", Spanish international, supposedly good on the ball, defends wide area as well, bit of a modern centre-back. A lot of people I trust, like George from the Cannon, it's going to be very windy this video, saying that he's kind of quite Rudiger-like. So okay, fine, that gives us a little bit of insight into the player. What I think is really interesting about this, that Arsenal are trying to sign a right-footed centre-back. Now, there were lots of links to Joel Hato. I wonder whether the Hato move is purely dependent on what goes on with Jakub Kiwior and Alexander Zinchenko. Because if they stay, even if just Kiwior stays and Zinchenko goes, there's still a need for a defender, and it is a right footer. In fact, I've been calling for a right footer in podcasts with Ben Mattinson and other things we've been talking about much more than I have been a left-side defender. The need for a left-sided defender comes in the departure of others that we've just mentioned. Mosquera, at 20 years old, is perfect centre-back cover for William Saliba, who's played a lot of football since he's become a first-team regular at Arsenal. And the three right-backs, Tomiyasu, Ben White and Jurriën Timber, all very, very capable. I mean, they would be the best centre-back at most clubs in the Premier League. Timber, Tomiyasu and Ben White would be maybe starting centre-backs for most teams in the Premier League. But they've typically been used as right-backs at Arsenal. And what's interesting about them is, and not in a good way, Tomiyasu isn't fit till maybe November at best. Jurriën Timber's had to go through a little bit of surgery this summer, but should be fine for pre-season. But did have the ACL injury that kept out the 23-24 campaign. Played way more football than he's meant to in 24-25 because of the Ben White injury. And Ben White has just had surgery, or should I say back, at the end of last year, January, February, and didn't really play that much of what was left of the 24-25 campaign when he returned, with probably about a month or two to go. So I think there is some concern about our right-footed options in defence, and I can see why Arsenal would want to add a player there. I think we need to add a player there more, like I said, that we need a left-footer. Now, some are saying that there's a chance that Arsenal do both Hato, or Hato, however it's pronounced, Arsenal do one of those players and Mosquera, both in one summer, if Kiwior goes, which would make a bit of sense, but I think we should try and get Mosquera either way, because I think we need that kind of profile at the club. Really interesting that Arsenal are not just exploring this, but moving ahead with it quite quickly. Hand of Arsenal came in with another update saying this is moving quite frantically. Rapidly is the word to use. It's moving ahead quite quickly. When Ornstein and Romano get hold of the information, for me it means there's really something in it. They both described it as talks, working on deals, said David Ornstein, and all this suggests with Ben Jacobs, Sammy Motbell and others coming in, that Arsenal trying to sign him. What are we looking at, 20 million maybe? But I think this represents good business for Arsenal, and we could very well be talking about in a week's time Kepa, Mosquera, Zubimendi, Norgard all done. Two of those you could be really excited about, and Mosquera and Zubimendi for what they mean for now and the future. Norgard and Kepa you described, as someone said on Twitter, I would describe as sensible signings. My word, why is it so windy in London all the time? Okay. Then there's the Eze stuff, which you've seen in the title and thumbnail of this video. This comes from Alex Crook and Ben Jacobs. They're breaking the news together that he's been added to the list, Eberechi Eze, the release clause of £68 million. Interestingly, they talk about him as a left winger, seen as a cheaper alternative to Rodrigo. There's a couple of things. Is this Andrea Berta doing his thing to try and speed up Rodrigo and Real Madrid? We know that Rodrigo was left out of the last Real Madrid game entirely, didn't start, didn't come on. and that there's been real doubts about his future. That's been covered by the Real Madrid correspondent, The Athletic and stuff. So, what do we know about Eze? Well, Tottenham want him. I would imagine there's a lot of clubs in for him. I think he's a class act. That goal in the FA Cup final doesn't surprise me. He's a player that scores big goals in big games. I think what I do like about him more than Rodrigo, and I think Rodrigo's a better player, but what I do like about Eze more is you can play him in the 10, you can play him in central spaces. And I know Rodrigo, we've talked about a lot, the fact he can move on the inside and make things happen. But I like the idea of Eze being someone who could play as a 10 every now and again. You could play as a left 8 with Ødegaard and Declan Rice sitting a bit deeper. So you got Rice at the base, then you've got two very technical, gifted players like Ødegaard and Eze trying to make things happen in the pockets. I like all that. I think that would work really, really well for Arsenal. What's interesting about the two supposed top targets on the left wing in Rodrigo and Eze is, as I just mentioned, they can both tuck in on the inside, and they can reinvent a little bit what Arsenal do, whether it be Calafiori bombing on that left, whether it be Toro Hato as an overlapper if we sign him, whether it be Lewis-Skelly being given a slightly different role, slightly different task next season. Let's see. But they're not really touchline wingers, so Arsenal trying to reinvent that side of the pitch a little bit more. Be interesting to see. But I really like those links. I'd be very happy with either one of Eze or Rodrigo. Rodrigo's my preferred choice. I think he is a superstar in the making. And I think Eze's a bit of a superstar in the making, but I think Rodrigo is slightly there already, slightly more there already. I think he's younger than Eze. And Eze I see more as a 10. I mean, really, Arsenal should be looking to add both. But then you're looking at a £65 million striker, an £80 million Rodrigo, and a £68 million Eze. And as much as I'm demanding the club do absolutely everything they need to do, even I can understand that's quite a lot to do in one window. And I don't imagine that would be possible. But maybe I should be raising the standards for the Cronkies and Arsenal, and that would be a fair criticism. So let me know in the comments if you think we should ultimately be trying to do all of them. But I like Eze a lot, and I like that if he came as the left winger, where you've still got Trossard and Martinelli, Eze's the better player, can start on the left. I think would be brilliant out there. Again, not a touchline winger with bags and bags of pace, but he's got a good burst, he's got really good close control, he can guile and glide past players, he can make things happen. I really, really like Eze, but he gives us something centrally as well that I think we need as a right-footed option. So I really like to see. He's like, in the same way Waneri plays out wide, but you want to see him more central. For me, that's Eze, but on the left-hand side as a right footer, and I think the two of them would be brilliant actually working together. So let's see. The other thing about the release clause is that there were reports I saw more recently before we were fully linked with him. There were reports that that Palace were willing to receive the release clause in instalments. Now normally what makes release clauses harder is that the club want it all up front, but if they are willing to accept it in instalments, that makes for a really enticing potential deal for Arsenal. Because I could see Arsenal thinking, you know what, if it's 30 million we commit to Eze now with instalments over time, how would Real Madrid want to break that down with Rodrigo? I don't know. So all this is all stuff they'll be thinking about. But Arsenal are getting moving, and I know we're all desperate for the striker to be sorted, for the left winger to be sorted. But everything's really, really picked up in the last few days, and I expect to have quite a hectic week. Let's see. Anyway, I'll keep you up to date with everything here on the Goonerverse too, mainly because Max is away, very deserved holiday, so there won't be any kind of news live streams on the Goonerverse or anything, but we'll cover it all here on the Goonerverse too. So do subscribe if you want to be kept up to date with all the latest news. Sorry, it's a few hours late. I've been away, well, I haven't been away, I've been out and about, been away from my laptop, let's say, but ready to discuss it all, and I'll be live on AFTV to discuss it with Robbie and the team in a bit too. Alright, catch you in a bit.